All right. Hi, everybody. I am super excited today to talk to you about the Calm Guide to Tech Integration. And if you don't know already, hopefully you do. My name's Deb. You are a member of the Find Calm Here community because that's where this content is going to be living. And I'm going to walk you through, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to walk you through a couple of features and some upcoming things that are happening in Find Calm Here. And then I'll go into section 2 of the Calm Guide with a brief short review of the first section and some changes I made based on some feedback I got. So what I'm going to do is open up our window here. Sandra, are you seeing my screen? Just making sure. Cool. So what I am on here is the activity feed, and over in the resources section is the Calm guides. So there are multiple guides at this point over the past year. The community has helped me co-create some of these guides. The first one we did was this Launching Your Mighty Network guide, and that's step-by-step on how to, with a focus of launching a paid online Mighty Network, how to do that in a step-by-step process. There's some videos and there's some templates and other resources in there. The second one I did was the onboarding members guide. And that one we did some workshops with the Mighty Mastermind about, because the Mighty Mastermind that I held in the beginning of 2021 had asked me for some support around onboarding. So that's there's a three sections in that with some replays of the workshops that we had. And then the most recent one is the tech integration guide that we're going to go over today. And that is just talking about how do you use tech tools to integrate and work with your community building strategy and then in your community processes. And we talked a little bit about processes in the onboarding guide, but this is going to go over like how you can use tech tools. And I think a lot of people get lost and confused because there's so much stuff out there. And so I try to simplify that a little bit in this guide. Before I go into that guide though, I want to tell you about the guides that are coming up. So I am working with a collaborative partner for the Calm Guide to Moving a Facebook Group to a Mighty Network. Hopefully section 1 will be released sometime in January, maybe February, depending on our schedule there with our release dates of what we're doing and with a partner. And I think that'll be helpful because I've learned a lot from other clients I've had. So there'll be some case studies and things like that about, what's worked and like the statistics on, how many members were in the Facebook group and how many converted over to the Mighty Network and how did that go and what was that experience? So kind of breaking that down. The other ones that I don't have listed up in the Find Calm Here community yet, but they'll be coming, are going to be a Find Calm guide to discovery, because I recently just found, and that isn't even in the roadmap that I put up a few weeks ago, because I just realized how important discovery is in the process, in any process, wherever you're at, either whether you're beginning or you are, and I did a post here. If you look in the Find Calm Here community, I just did a post yesterday on discovering the key to unlocking member retention, and it has some Google Forms that I share that go over details of like a survey that you could put together to collect some data, because once you get that data, it's really powerful and you can actually use that in a lot of different ways. You could use it in marketing, on your landing page, in your messaging, how you're talking to members, all that kind of stuff. So that I would just recommend that you check out, but sometime in 2022, I will put together like a step-by-step guide around discovery and how it can help you either when you're before you're launching or after you've launched, or maybe you're in the middle and you're seeing members leaving and trying to figure out, how to either keep members or encourage new members to join. So that's one note for this week. And then the other thing I just want to highlight for anybody who's watching this replay, the Mighty Network just announced some big features that they've been talking about all year, which is this live streaming feature and live video in the Mighty Network. They did have a release around video in courses, but now it's going to be available for all Mighty Networks, and there's some pricing increases around that. So there's a link here to the Mighty Networks community post, like what they have listed as the details there that you can click on. But I put a little bit of the notes from that post in here. And I broke down, they had a live event with Jessica yesterday. And so I broke down some of the things that they're not available yet that people might want that will be coming, such as right now there's a 2-hour max time for the live, so you can't go longer than 2 hours. I don't know why you'd want to go longer than 2 hours for a live. That's pretty long, but and then there's not a screen sharing capability at this point, nor can you have multiple speakers. Captioning is not available, and there's no transcripts yet. Those things will be coming. So those are just some cool new features that are happening with Mighty Networks. And for the guides, I'm going to go back in here. Oh, before I go to the guides too. So in the cohorts area, if you're in the Mighty Mastermind for the fall session, we have that going currently. If you are a new member or somebody who was here for a while, the Mighty Mastermind, I have that open to everyone so that you can see some of the history of some of the things that we've done in the past. And there are still some members that are doing some growth seats in this year that are from that spring session. So that's why that's there. And you can check that out at any time. And then I have a new offer that I'm going to be promoting to members only exclusively, which is the Calm Corner. The Calm Corner includes a strategy session per month. So instead of doing the $297, which is my 90-minute strategy session cost, you get the Calm Corner with a free monthly strategy included, not free, but included monthly strategy session for $97 a month, in addition to your membership cost if you're paying a membership pricing. So those are just some updates that are pretty new that I wanted to go over. And then let's go over to the Calm Guide. Sandra, I did a lot of talking there. Did you have any questions about anything I said? Or any comments or thoughts?
Not so far. I had a peek at your discovery material, and I agree that's really important. Getting feedback from clients.
Cool. Okay. Well, if you have any other thoughts, questions, let me know. So I'm just going to go over real quick the first section, and then we'll dig into the second section. I tried to make these short and sweet because that I found it can get really stressful and complex when you are giving a lot of information. And so I went back based on some feedback I got and I updated these. I had some videos in here, but I didn't find that they were really being consumed. So I've decided not to do videos unless somebody asks me to do a specific tutorial video. And then I can do that for someone, but I've decided to not do videos going forward for the Calm Guides unless I'm doing there, with the exception of like some demonstrations or tutorials that I'll add in there. So those are just updates that I've changed, and I cleaned it up a little bit so it's not so like wordy, things like that. So if you saw previous versions, it's a little bit cleaner this time. The Calm Guide, the first section, all I do is really just talk about what tech integration is. And to me, what tech integration is it's really helpful to use tools and how do you implement them and combine them with your Mighty Network to make your life easier and simpler and have more effective reach to your members. So that's kind of what I see as it helping with. So I explain that in section 1 of what is it, why is it important, and then how can it help you? So that's in the section 1, so you can check that out. Section 2 is what we're going to go over today, and it's using the tools to build, launch, and grow your network. And I have 3 steps in this section. And the first one is going to be going over communicating with your members and how you can best communicate with members. Organization and data management of how you can better organize and systemize your data for your community, and then scheduling and creating a content calendar for better organization of your tasks of community support. So those are the 3 things we're going to go over today. I was going to try to do an analytics area as well in this, but I've decided to push that off to December of 2021. So I'm going to have a workshop in December, and in that workshop, we'll go into section 3, which I'll build out in the next few weeks. That'll go over analytics, reviewing, tracking, and trying to automate some tasks, maybe with some zaps and things like that. But I wanted to really focus on let's how to connect to people in a deeper and meaningful way before we try to automate too many things so that we make sure we're on the right path and we get that connection established with people. Because if you try to automate, what I found is if you try to automate too fast, you lose people because it doesn't feel then real or connected as a human being, which we're creating communities that connect people. So we want to make sure we talk to people. Okay, so That's section 2, and I'm just going to go to the first step here. So what I've done is I'm just going to review over these. We're not going to go too much in depth with this, but if you have no, like I said, just if you have questions, let me know. What I said here in step 1 is that deciding on your method of communication with your members can help them remember to sign in and then help them build habits. But it just depends on how it's best for you to communicate and how the members are receiving the communication and how that has been. So if you've already had a community, you can actually ask them, like, what's the best way? Or you can consider, if you don't have an active community yet, or let's say you want to see it from the perspective of a community member, there's a lot of Mighty Networks you can join that are free that you could just pop in there and see what is the experience like? How is this Mighty Network host communicating with members? Do I like the way they're communicating with members? Is that something I want to do in my Mighty Network? Is it going to work for me, or is it going to work for my members? So those are different ways that you can kind of view through the lens of the community members in like a different community. I think I mentioned before, but I set up a separate profile. So when I log in a different profile, I can see from a member perspective, like what the view is and what people are seeing. And I also get those notifications as a member versus as me, Deb, the person who's the host. So those are some ways that you can like just test and see what is working for you in your community or what you want to do. I kind of go over just some questions like, do you like receiving emails? If you're getting a lot of emails, is that stressful to you? Obviously, if you don't really like writing emails, it might not be something you want to do. So is there another way, a better way to communicate with people? The notifications, sometimes the notifications work really well with Mighty Networks, but sometimes they don't. So it's just I think that is also a thing that Mighty Networks is still kind of trying to improve upon. But also as the community host, it's really just like, it also goes to your content strategy as to the frequency of how many notifications you're sending out, how many times you're bringing them in, and then what are the programs and what does your events calendar look like, and how does that connect with your notifications? So that's just another thought about like calendar reminders. One of the things that I found was really helpful for Find Calm Here members is to actually, when I go into an event, I save the event to my calendar, and then instead of like going into the community, I actually invite people from my email list, because the people that are in my community, I have a specific email list that I created for Find Calm Here members. So then I just put the Find Calm Here members on that Google Calendar invite, and then they all get the notification reminder so that if they want to join the event, they have it on their calendar so that they remember. And that, to me, a lot of members have said that's helpful for them to remember to come back in, especially if you're like me and a member of several Mighty Networks and you're trying to bounce back and forth between all of that, and maybe you get multiple notifications. And so it's more helpful for you to have a direct connection in an email with somebody. But that's not everybody for everybody. Yeah.
I like that, Deb, and I was going to take that for my own community, but the only thing I was uncomfortable with is that it exposes people's email addresses to each other. So I wasn't sure on that about, how my members would feel about that, having their email addresses exposed.
If it's a Google, are you using Google? No?
Outlook.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just learning Outlook because a client of mine is actually requiring me to use it, but I haven't used it in 2 years. So I don't know if there's a way to do this, but I know in Google, there's a way for you to just have it be that they only see you, so they don't see other people's emails. So there is a button, a toggle for that. I'm gonna guess that Outlook would have something like that too, or you could just BCC people.
It doesn't allow you to BCC on an invitation to a calendar invitation. So when I accept your invitation into my Outlook calendar, it exposes everybody's email address.
That's a good point. I have no issue with emails. I don't think anybody would have issue. And if they've gave me their email, I guess it's dependent on your community. I don't think any of my members would really be upset about other people seeing their emails, unless they started to get spam or something. Obviously, then they would come back and be like, Deb, this person's Sandra's spamming me all the time. So I guess it would be a case by case, but like I said, I don't know if there's a workaround Outlook. That might be something to research. If there's anything out there in the universe that I'm sure somebody's had this question with Outlook. So, but that's a good question. And maybe I'll like look into that after this and then I'll get back to you on it if I find some workaround. What else? So I just have a bunch of questions here that maybe I'll help guide you through making some decisions around what is the best way to communicate. And this is more, I also wanted to make sure I'm thinking about what you enjoy as a host and what your members enjoy. So looking at both sides of it. If you really hate writing emails, like I said, don't force yourself to write emails and find the other way that you like to communicate. If that's a video, if that's a, you know, a post, then those are the ways that I would suggest, because your members will be receptive because they've joined your community because they like you in general, I'm guessing. So they'll get what you're trying to do. And if they need something else, then they'll tell you. They'll be like, hey, I really would appreciate an email reminder. Then you can say, sure, I'll send you that, because that's easy. You also want to think about social media. So you have probably promoted your community on social media. Maybe you communicate with them on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on Instagram. If you're communicating with them there, you're kind of, there's another touch point there. Are you being repetitive with what you're saying in the community and what you're saying on social media? Maybe you want to be repetitive. Maybe you want to remind them to come in the community. Maybe that's an option for you of saying, hey, everybody who's actually a community member, you know, check this upcoming workshop out. Here's the deal. Here's the link. If you're sharing it like on LinkedIn, you could like tag them and be like, here's the link, and then link would go into your Mighty Networks. And so that's another way for you to bring them in the doorway if they are a current member. If they're not a current member, maybe that like, then they're going to be like, I'll click the button and then they land on your landing page, which is still great, because then they're saying, oh, I have to be a member, but it's $49 a month. Okay, maybe this is something I should look into because I'm missing out, you know? So there's different possibilities there about social media and how those communication methods kind of flow together and work in unison sometimes. And I went into a little bit of communicating versus in the on the onboarding guide and talked about different styles of communication, but just to highlight, like some people like videos better, some people like audio or instructions. And your members will probably tell you that if you just ask them, how would you really like to communicate? What is really helpful for you? And that might be if you're instructional, like if you're doing a workshop or a course, or it could just be like in general in the community as a member, like I really would like to have weekly sessions with you, you know, things like that, to ask you a question instead of like posting it in the community. And then I put together a little post for you guys to just look and see here, ask them if you're not sure. How can we keep touch so that we make sure we stay in touch during between our conversations, and just ask them, like, send me an email to remind me, or maybe they want a text or mobile notification if they have the mobile app, because some communities are really mobile focused. And so if they have the mobile app, it's just a reminder of saying, everybody make sure you download the mobile app and then have your notifications set so that so that you get these notifications as they come. Or if they're spending a lot of time on social media, maybe, and they're not doing a whole lot, like I said, in the community earlier, that's the way you could get them into the community, by utilizing social media and like targeting your marketing specifically at your members and saying, great, Find Calm Here members, check out this awesome thing that's happening. I've done a little bit of that, and I've done a little bit of like join the community. And so I'm kind of testing to see which one of those is getting better responses right now. So I'll let you know when I get more feedback on that kind of stuff. And so you could like copy and paste this if you wanted to out of here, like I said. And then I just put together some resources here. There's a lot of questions that I've gotten about email marketing, and I'm not an email marketing professional, so I don't want to claim to be one. But I have some resources that I pulled from some searches I did about best email providers. If you're looking for a new email provider, I mean, it's always a roll of the dice about email marketing. And I think that there's some really good strategies that are working, and I'm still trying to figure that out myself. But there's some resources there and some tech tools for better communication. So there's like just links, like I said, you could check out those different resources. And then I have a worksheet, because some of you have told me you love worksheets. So I have a worksheet and I have a template. And so the worksheet goes and just is basically breaking out the questions that I had in section 1 a little bit, so that you have something to write, and then a checklist of, are these the things that you want to ask? And then what have you learned from all of the questions? Like once you get through all these questions, like what are your takeaways from that process? The template that I have here, some people had asked me, and I wanted to just put this in here because some people had asked me about, recently I was talking to Sandra earlier about moving from a paid or free to a paid community, and how do you communicate that with members? And so this was kind of like a template that I was putting together. And you could just copy this and actually put it in an email or in a different kind of communication, like online in social media. And it just is telling you, like, you know, here's what here's what's changing, what this means for you. You're going to get this and that, and this, here's what's going to be great about this space. And that's just all it is. So, but some people had asked for that, so that's why that's there. All right. So any questions on step 1 before I go to step 2, Sandra?
I'm just following along in the community on the guide. So because I wanted to look at some of the tools, but no questions so far. Keep going. I do have questions, things that I want help on, but I'll see if it's answered as you go.
Okay. So step 2, we're going to talk a little bit more about organization and data management. It's probably overwhelming. I know I've been overwhelmed about all the content that I might want to create and how I'm organizing that. Plus you have like your social media content and all of that other stuff and email. So where do you keep all this stuff, and like, how do you organize it in a way that's going to be easy to access for you, so that you can just tap into it when you need something? You're like, oh, I need to go grab the Our Purpose copy, or, oh, I need to grab, you know, somebody asked me about us, and you can just copy and paste your About Us copy, but saving that in somewhere that you have access to it, so you know exactly where to go when somebody asks you for something, instead of like digging out, you know, oh, where is that in my community? It's somewhere specific. I talked a little bit about surveys in the beginning, and here are some resources around the surveys. So I shared that link to that post, like I mentioned, about surveys, because Jessica in our Mighty Mastermind last week was asking about surveys, because she's in the discovery area and they're trying to get clear on their ideal member and their offers. And so that's why she had asked me about sharing these Google Docs Google Forms that I put together. And Google is really great because they have so many free features, and yeah, anything free is good. So the forms give you a lot of capability to organize and sort data into like the Google Sheets spreadsheet. So you can create a form and then have the form go into a spreadsheet that gives you all the results in one area, so that you can sort them in that way. So that would be one thing I would definitely recommend if you're doing like any discovery, or if you want to start doing some surveys. I also use it for collecting information from potential, like people who want to do the podcast with me. I use it for like to ask them how to, I'll just pull this up. So if I wanted to collect data for the podcast, I have a little form and I send them this link, and then it collects like a headshot for me to use for the marketing, their social media links, so I can put the show notes together, asking them how they're going to promote the podcast episode, because I've had some people are really, really great, and some people are not so great with promoting the podcast. So I want to know, like, how are you going to promote this podcast if you want to be on it? And then if you have a free offer, like they can put that there. And then when I put my show notes together and I do a little intro for each individual podcast speaker, I have all that in my notes together. And so I can see on the responses, oh, here's this person, he filled out all this stuff. And then what I do is, just to give you the full workflow, I actually pull this into Trello. And in Trello, I have a podcast area where it's shared with my podcast editor. And each person has their own little little board, and I have, here's the date of when the interview is going to be. And then I have a Google Doc that has all these links, and this is the notes from that form that they filled out. And then here's the intro, and I wrote up the intro, and then that's what I read in the beginning of the episode. So that's like the workflow of Find Calm Here podcast. But then when I go over to Trello, and let's say I already interviewed Jackie, so she was over in this, we scheduled her, now I've recorded her episode, and then my podcast editor can tag me and say, oh, I just edited this, like she did this for Carol's, and she said, got everything uploaded in the folder for you. So now I know everything's ready to go. So when she's edited those, I can put that into my workflow of like how I'm going to get this promoted out to the world. That went into a little bit of a deep dive. Sorry about that, but I wanted to show you the full flow of like how something can connect together.
Just a quick question on that. The what's the mechanism where it goes from a Google form to a Google Doc?
So Google Drive is where everything is kind of stored. And so what I've done is I organize everything. I did a little demo in this step to show you how I organize things for myself.
About that, but I mean, what's the tech integration between the Google form and the Google Doc?
So it does not connect to,
automatic?
There's no way to connect to automated. No, there's no automated way for a Google document, but the Google spreadsheet is the connection. So when you're on a Google form, which we'll go to, where did I go? Okay, so we're in a Google form, and in the responses area, you can use this Google Sheets, and I can create a Google Sheets, and then every response will be listed here. And so that's how it connects. So when people fill out the form, this is where the responses go.
Okay.
So when you're talking about Google Doc, it's like Microsoft Word, it's like a text document, but this is actually a spreadsheet. So you can, organize a little bit better and see like people's names and all of that data you can connect together. And that's kind of what I was saying about with the client work I've been doing, because the clients that I'm doing are actually, we did, like I said, I mentioned earlier, we did these surveys, and then I could put together, I pulled highlights into like one Google Doc for him to like see. Here are the groups we're keeping. Here's where we did some organization of topics. We did a poll to see like what topics people were interested in, to kind of clean up the topics. He had like almost 20 topics, and a lot of them weren't being utilized. And so a part of the other of what I did with that project was to say, all right, let's clean all the topics up to get more people interested in, like, so that when they click on topics, it's not like they have to scroll a lot to get to them. Right. So we did a survey and found out like which ones were really connecting with people. And then we decided, here are the topics we're going to keep. We're going to rename them to like kind of refresh everything. And then here are the ones we're going to get rid of. We're just, actually I deleted it, I think, but I had it down here. Like, here are the ones we're going to get rid of. And then I just would go in and remove that. And that's just dependent on your client. Like, my client was okay with me removing that content because it was old and he wasn't really concerned about it. You might want to, before you, so just a warning, you don't want to delete a topic unless you're sure that you don't need the content, because you could always shift the content into a different topic. But if you delete a topic, then you remove the content. But that's kind of like how, like, a response of a form. So this one had like, I don't know, what is it, 61 responses from a form that we sent out to his email list. And then we could find out more about his members in that way, if that helps.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Connected.
Thanks.
Yes. Hi, Louie. I see you're eating and driving, or at least eating and sitting in your car, maybe not driving.
I'm parked so I can hear. Not driving.
Okay, well, enjoy your lunch. We're just in the middle of section 2, and I'm going to be wrapping up shortly in about 5 minutes so that we can have some time for questions. And then I have another app here, client recommended, which is Workflowy. And it's more of like a dot style, very simplistic. So I have these different little dots, and then I can say, oh, I want to see my branding colors, for example, because this is something I kept looking for and I couldn't remember where I kept the branding color numbers when I was like trying to do some marketing. So now I have it listed. It's like easy, super to find. Here's the branding colors for FenCom here. Here's all my social media links. If somebody said, hey, I need all your social media links, I could just like say, here they are. That's what kind of Workflowy helps with. I kind of find that helpful, especially when I have a hard time finding a lot of different things. So I have like logins here, I have business resources links, and I have like Calm guides. So here's my Calm guide plan for the next year. And these go to actually Google Docs. So I have these links in here. So all the Calm guides are listed here. And then I have, here's the Google Doc that I put together that has all of my notes. So I don't, and this is another good point that I make in here. I don't just have things on Mighty Networks, because although Mighty Networks is great, and I'm sure that they're going to be around for a long time and I won't ever have problems, there could be a day when I'm never going to be able to access my content and I need to prepare for that day now. So I put everything, like I said, on these Google Docs, and I actually back them up on an external hard drive once a month or every 2 months maybe, so that I have them somewhere and I can save them as PDFs, so that there's no way I'm ever going to lose that data. I've got them. I mean, that's as secure as you can get it. You know, I can't get much more secure than that. And it's all on the cloud. So even if something happened to my external hard drive, I'd still have access to all of this stuff because it's all on Google Drive. And I have some extra surveys in here that are listed in that the post that I shared earlier. And in addition to the one that I talked about with Discovery, like initial setup, there's one that I have for transitioning from a free to a paid. And then there's one that I just did this week that is for a client that I just started working with that is asking for features. So if you wanted content from your members and they're not necessarily in the community sharing content on a regular basis, you could send out a survey to collect that content and say, hey, we want to feature you in the community, or we want to feature you here or there. And this allows you to get some really great data from them so that then you can do a feature for them. And then maybe if they're excited about the feature that you did, then they'll promote the community as well. So that's just another way of like connecting how a form and a survey can connect to like building that engagement with your members and promoting your community out to your social media platforms. And then I'll just quickly go over, I don't have a whole lot of detail here. I just have some examples around community content calendars. There's a couple different ways you can do this, and it really depends on when you think about your community strategy of what you're going to be looking at in regards to content over the next 30, 60, 90 days. But I just point out some different models here. You could do a membership model with a course model. And I know that the Mighty Networks and the Mighty Master Class, whatever it's called, the new accelerator program that they call it now, she talks about this year in the life, and it breaks down into like these monthly themes and then these daily actions. To me, that's like overkill. Unless you have like a community of like 10,000 people or something. And even then, I think it's just a lot of content that not necessarily people are really, you know, unless they're telling you they're consuming every day something. I think it's overkill to be doing a lot of this stuff. I think that you can easily get away with doing like a first and third office hours, second and fourth Wednesdays, maybe you do the question and the poll, first and third Fridays, article or a resource that helps them implement what you're teaching them in there. Second and fourth Mondays, co-working and just getting connection, because it's a big part of, you don't want to just teach at people, right? You want them to connect with each other, because ultimately the goal, I would think, for me and you as a community host would be to get your members sharing content inside the Mighty Networks. And so they're sharing their thoughts, and they're connecting with members and saying, oh my gosh, Sandra, I just heard this really great thing from Loy. You should totally talk to him because he's found something that's worked really well for him. And maybe you guys can connect on a private chat, and you can meet up and then, benefit each other's conversations. Those kinds of things are always really great to collaborate with. The other one is I have example here is a membership with a cohort. So maybe you're doing a 3-month coaching program and you are like, well, how much content do I need to have for 3 months of this community with cohort feature? You don't really need a whole lot because you're already meeting them maybe on a weekly basis. So they have already got maybe some assignments or some goals set, and you're already kind of working with them on that basis. Maybe you just do a monthly or a quarterly workshop to keep the engagement going while they're going through the program. And a weekly article or a blog, like just a resource that's helpful. That's not specifically, it doesn't have to be from you. Like you don't have to write it. You can just say here, and you can actually bulk do this. You can put a Google Doc on the side and just list all of these resources that you found that would be helpful for your members. And then you could just drip that content over 3 or 6 months and just say, every other week, you're going to share this resource. And that could be a really simple, easy way for you to like have some content in there that you didn't even create, but that it would be, it would be helpful for your members. And then I have like polls and the biweekly collaboration sessions, I think are really fun because then they're actually interacting and having fun and not just learning. We're not just like, here's the thing you should do, but we're helping them connect as people. And then I have a community model in here that just goes over different ways. And I just mentioned here, if you have a really active group and you're trying to build habits like a daily workout routine, I mentioned earlier, Sandra, about the daily meditation challenge. So that was a daily post. So I had 21 posts in a row. And that was for a purpose. We were driving members to engage and also attend these live meditations and also get them to donate, to get to a donation model. So there's a lot of purpose around the daily, but it wasn't like an ongoing forever thing. It was just a specific timed thing. So if you are going to do something like a daily post over a specific time, it might work if you're doing something like a challenge where you're saying like a 10-day or a 30-day challenge, and then you're posting, because then you're really establishing that habit for them to say, oh, I really want to do this. Sandra has this great 30-day challenge. It starts next week. I'm totally getting in there. And then they're like, if they miss 2 days, they might be like, oh, I got to get back in there. And it gives them the habit of like, all right, I'm going to make checking in at Sandra's community every 9 o'clock every morning. And that's going to be my plan to keep on this challenge. And they're, even with that client, we did like a little checkbox so that people could like actually check off each day. So that they were like accountable, and then they felt good. It was like ticking off a box. So I've got some of those ideas there. And then I just have some questions. And that is step 3. So I am going to got about 8-10 minutes left for questions. If y'all have questions, go for it. Or thoughts or comments, or let me know if this is helpful.
Hey, Deb, how are you?
Yeah.
So I definitely haven't been consuming a lot. So I just trying to wrap my mind around where we are. And I'm glad that you created this because it's something I can go back towards and to build my community a little bit better. My question was with this, what was it? The frequency. So I'm trying to like be efficient and only post, what I really need to, not to just post just for post's sake. Because I don't want to post all of this. So when you're talking about let's you don't need to do all these weekly things. Have you seen like that? I think that monthly. I guess you do like a couple of things, in each month. How effective has that been to keeping people engaged?
Yeah, that's a good question. And frequency is a tough thing because it's kind of unique to each person's community and what your members have told you over time. So it's kind of like an experiment. I know that I did a podcast episode with someone that had only been doing once a month office hours, and their members said, we want more than that. And he said, okay, because he didn't want to do every week because he wasn't sure if people were going to show up. But then they
Right.
said, we're interested. and he started doing them. And then he had so much more engagement and interaction with people because then they were actually able to connect with each other more frequently. Now, I, on the other hand, have been like trying different tactics because all my people are already in their own communities. So it's a challenge with like trying to get people to come in to find calm here, for example, unless they have a specific need at a specific time. So what I've been really working on doing is trying to build these connections with the members. And instead of it just being a strategy session, which I initially started Find Calm Here with the offer of a group strategy session once a month, I tried to then change it to say, okay, well, you can have it Ask Me Anything every other week. And then the other weeks that we don't have the Ask Me Anything, we'll do the community co-working. So, because some people say, oh, I've been meaning to do my landing page for 3 weeks and I just haven't done it. Well, if you sign up for the co-working session, you can say on Friday or on Monday, they're on Mondays. On Monday, I'm going to do the co-working session so that I make sure I do my landing page. Those things have been kind of helpful, that I've been seeing a little bit more activity on people showing up. Specifically people who are like working on launching their for the first time, because they want a little bit more support around feedback from other people in our group, as well as myself. But if you're finding that it's working for you to just connect with them maybe once a month, that's great. Like, I think it just depends. I think some people really expect that members are going to be posting a lot or cheering. And that's not always the case. If they're showing up on a Zoom call, that's their participation and that's their energy and that's what they're bringing to the community. If they're just posting and not showing up on events, then that's how they engage and that's how they're choosing to communicate. So I think it just depends on the uniqueness of your community. And then what your timeframes are. If you're very like, I know right now it's a busy time for me. I'm trying to strategically plan my life for the next like couple months. And so I'm trying to figure out how can I make it easier for myself. And part of that was I wanted to do like these calm guides that I wanted to put out. And I said this is, I think Sandra commented a few months ago in a workshop. I was like, oh, I want to have these all for you guys all right now. And you were saying, Sandra was like, well, even if you had them, Deb, we couldn't consume them all right now. And we might not need them all right now because we're at different places in our community building journey. So what I've learned for myself in this process is I want to do the calm guides, but I'm going to do them in a time that I can do them in. So I'm going to release and in a timely way that my members aren't being overwhelmed with too much content all at one time. So for that example of the calm guides, I'm just doing, each calm guide has 3 sections and I'm doing 1 section per month. So that means over the course of 3 months, I will have a calm guide created if I keep on track with what I'm doing, I would have one every 3 months or so, every 3 to 5 months or something, depending on the schedule. But that's still bringing new content in and answering people's questions in a different way without it being a lot of content all at once. And I'm building up the library. Go ahead, Sandra.
I was just going to say, I'm finding the analytics helpful in Mighty Networks for judging what kind of content people are consuming and they're interested in, what they comment on. I don't know if, Loy, if you use the analytics feature. No, okay.
So yeah, that's I'm not totally like well versed enough on that, but I did bump into some data and I was like, oh wow, okay, here's the 2 free members that I got started with, and here's the one that's actually paying, and here's the, so I saw that, but besides that, I don't know if there's anything else I should know, like engagement, how many posts they make, things like that.
I think that's Deb's next calm guide, right? You're diving into the analytics.
Yeah, so Loy, you're right on pace with what I was going to just wrap up with, is that next month I've decided I was going to try to do it in this section, but I've decided to push it off because I think there's a lot we could get into with analytics and data. So I'm going to have a workshop next month in December that'll be section 3 of the Calm Guide to Tech Integration. And that's going to go over not just how to use tech tools for looking at the actual content and how it's being consumed, but also like how to use the Mighty Network analytics to really be on your side as far as like making decisions about content creation in your next 30, 60, or 90 days. or the frequency of your content calendar. Maybe you realize that you're posting 3 times a week and the activity is lower, or it's higher. Maybe it's higher on a Tuesday than it is on a Monday. Those are things I'm actually reviewing with a client currently as we're assessing her community to see the levels of engagement and what content is being consumed, and then what questions are coming up, so that we can start to create content that answers those questions, in addition to featuring members, which creates some engagement. I hope
I
that
have,
kind of answered.
yeah, it gives another perspective, so which is always helpful. Quick question. I'm trying to be within the time here. Oh, it's escaping me now. Uh, my community. So I have a free community, right? These are customer communities. So I have a free community on Facebook, right? And that was just like to get, just a free community. Like anyone can kind of join if you answered a couple questions. And then I have a paid community, which is on Mighty Network. We're talking about just, ease and trying to make things easier for me. And it's something I've been thinking about for a few months, and how to really make things easier. And so I'm thinking of just, my public page on Facebook and all these other social media, you know, you know, I don't think I might need a free Facebook group. I'm thinking of just bringing that Facebook group, in, like, I guess what do you call it? The in the main network,
Yeah.
and then my paid community, in a group, and just to try to consolidate. So I have one app and one thing to look at to engage my free community and my paid community. What's your
Mhm.
thoughts on doing that and attrition? When you're trying to make a move like that.
Yeah, it's a good question. You have to go, Sandra? Okay. Thank you for
Yeah.
joining us.
Okay.
It's a good question. And you're reading my mind, because actually in the beginning of our session, I mentioned about I'm working with a collaborative partner to do a case study on how to move a Facebook group to a Mighty Network. And that's going to be the Calm Guide to moving a Facebook group to a Mighty Network. It's going to be sometime in January. It's going to come out. So it'll be like a step-by-step guide to what I found had worked with some clients that I've worked with. But what I think is a great idea is what you're talking about. And what I've seen really work well is if you're talking to your Facebook group, and I think we talked about this a while ago, but just kind of saying, here's where everything's going to go, because you have free content, like you're putting out free content on social media, on your, like you said, Facebook page or on your LinkedIn. Like that's where they can communicate with you for free, and they can, like, you can ask them questions, or you can reply to them in messages or in the comments area of these posts. But for the community aspect, when you're doing these like Zooms or these interactive kind of conversations, I would highly suggest that you just say, hey, all of this stuff that we're doing, it's been great to host this on Facebook. We're actually moving to this other platform. And, you could ask for money for even just that bottom level. We talked about different ways. If you want to offer free content, it could be maybe you do once a quarter, or once once in a while you do like a free Facebook Live or
Yeah.
something. But
Right.
then if they want to interact with you and your members, then they have to be a member of your paid Mighty Network, because I really believe that, Mighty Networks and the community aspect in general just really help you to go deeper with people, but it's also more time consuming. And so I think it's a great concept of saying, okay, I don't want to spend so much time and energy putting the same content basically into 2 different places. I want to consolidate. I think that's a great way to do it. You could do it as free and do it a trial, and, do like a free trial for people to see what the value is. That's kind of how I started with Find Calm Here when I did the relaunch, was did the free trials and stuff. So you could try different strategies. And in the beginning, I also, which I know you weren't here on the beginning, but I mentioned about the discovery surveys that have been really helpful for my clients. And I've been working on building out these using Google Forms to collect data and actually ask and validate the offers. So here's what you get inside the community. here's the pricing that we're looking at, you know, which is affordable for you? Is it the $25 a month? Is it the 50 or whatever it is? And that gives you the ability to then have a little bit more validation around your offer. Maybe they want the free community, and that's up to you, I guess, if you want to do
Yeah.
that. So, but
Right.
combination, totally.
Yeah. All right. And like, say, let's just say we make that transition. What do you do with the Facebook group? Like, you just archive it, or you like just like, and the people that's like holdovers? How
Yeah,
do you handle?
I would say you just say, hey, you know, we're just going to be posting everything. You give them some notice. Maybe you give them a 30-day time frame. I don't know if I would archive it. You're just going to say, we're not going to be active here. Because what you could do is then tap into that group of people. Maybe there are people that are holding out and saying, well, I don't really want to pay for something like this right now. But maybe 3 months from now, it'll be a different conversation. So I wouldn't maybe archive it, just because you could tap back into that group like every quarter or something and give them something, a bonus, like, hey, I wanted to talk to you guys about what we're doing inside our online community over at Mighty Networks. And you promote the community on Mighty Networks on Facebook, and that's like a way for you to get them shifted over. And maybe you do that in January, and then you do that again like in April or something.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, and I know we got to run, so I'll wrap it up. So I created, because I was just searching for a way to, because some people come in the restaurant and they don't. I noticed like they don't know, because it's all online a lot of times. Like, they don't know who's who in a sense. So I was trying to find a way to create that sense of, community, that connection. Like, we're all part of the Nears 200, Facebook group, or ambassador group, right? So I just decided to create these, what do you call these, lanyards with these like, with that it says Nears ambassador on it. And it's kept in a certain location where I only post in the group where it is. So when they come in, they can decide to like put it on and have it while they're having it. So if other people, so they can recognize each other, like, oh, you're in Nears 200, cool, all right, now they can start a conversation. Now they can like connect and say, oh yeah, I seen you, I just couldn't recognize you. So I put that in my ambassador Mighty Network group, the paid group, and one of the members actually designing it and doing it for me, and so it's ready. So I'm thinking of like, when I do these things on the public page, the Facebook page, and do like these bigger kind of events and do it in the restaurant, like people that's not part of the community can see, oh, these people are Nears 200 and might want to join, because who's who now, and it's like, oh, I don't have one of those. Like, we're doing a food community event. Nears 200 feeds the community on Tuesday, and I'm like, this is a great opportunity for them to wear this thing, and everybody else, you're welcome to help and volunteer, and then see this Nears 200. They got, oh, you guys are, what is that? Like, oh, how can I be one? And like, well, you gotta go to this webpage, near200.com or something. And I'm thinking that might be a strategy that can help, connections and show value.
Yeah, I love that idea. In fact, I love the in-person connection with online connection, and how you can merge those two, and how they really expedite connection with members when you are able to connect in person. And in fact, that's how I started. So when I was a member of this community called Location Indie, I had signed up for the community, was paying $50 a month to be a member. And I think I joined in like June. And by September, I got on a plane and flew from Pennsylvania to Colorado and got off, and actually met these people. And during the 3 days that we were hanging out together, we got t-shirts. The host of this community, which is a Mighty Network, gave us all t-shirts as part of the event. It's like a fun conference is what they were calling it, some kind of like a conference. But part of that was like, we got these t-shirts. So then when we were posting on social media, or we're in other areas, people would be like, oh, what's Location Indie? That's a pretty cool t-shirt. And it's like, has a little fun slogan or something.
Yeah.
That created a sense of like, even when we left, and when we're posting like pictures or selfies or something up on social media, people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it was 2 years ago. Like, I can't believe it's been 2 years since we hung out in Denver. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that
I
and
love
that's
that
so
idea. It's great.
it's so important because I see that the value online and everything, but at the same time, one of the purpose of creating Nears 200 was people that wanted to help. So it's like a volunteer customer community group. But then, we have to make that in-person connection for the health of the business too. And it's great, but we have to figure out how to give the value online and also translate it in person, to help continue to be more financially sustainable in the restaurant. So I'm just trying to make that link, and I'm trying to avoid you know, the typical, you know, here's a 10% off, 50% off. Here's a
Right.
try to drive people in the restaurant because I'm more into like the community part of it. How do we drive sustainable revenue by building like priceless connections that's worth so much more? And that's the idea, because I rather just go down doing this than to try to do some here's buy one get one to some random person. Like,
Right.
anyway, it's an okay. Thank you so much, Deb. Again,
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing that too. I'm excited to hear how that goes. You have to let me know.
yeah, yeah, me too. I'll share it.
Okay. Well, nice to see you. I'll
Yep,
see you
same here.
again.
All
Take
right,
care.
bye.
All right. Bye. Thanks, everybody. I will post a replay up shortly.